What's up, a Cinema Shogun here, and holy moly. The moment that we have all been waiting for is finally here. The story that originally brought us, or at least most of us, all together. The Gabby Petito story. And we have all been waiting for this moment to find out what is in Brian Laundrie's notebook. We've been talking about it for months, what seems like years in today's time. In YouTube years, it's been years. Do you know what I mean? But the moment we've been patiently waiting for is finally here, and it just came out of nowhere. We didn't have to wait for a trial. We didn't have to wait for a confession from the parents. It was just bam. We now know the contents of Brian Laundrie's notebook. And forgive me, I'm still kind of in shock. Honestly, today has been a crazy news day. I am working overtime, so be sure to show your support. Share this video, drop a like, drop some comments on the video, some super thanks. You could support me by donating to the Cash App, what have you. But make sure you all get this video out there, because there's a lot of people that were interested in the Gabby Petito story that thought it was over. But ladies and gentlemen, it is not. We now know what was in Brian Laundrie's notebook, and I guess I would just go ahead and get to it. But I'm letting you all know right now, I've already read through it, I skimmed through it, and it is off the wall. So here is, like I said, I'm still like, I don't want to say I'm in shock, but it's just, I'm like kind of flabbergasted. This was just totally unexpected. And once you hear the contents of the notebook, you're going to be sitting here scratching your head like, what the hell did I just hear? Because I'm sitting here like, what in the hell did I just read? So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and look at it. Gabby. Now, mind you, this is supposedly what Brian Laundrie wrote in his notebook. Gabby, I was right at your side. Or, Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd be going through every memory that we've made. Getting even more excited for the future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together. Every holiday. I'll never get to play with. We don't even know what this word says again. Never go hiking with TJ. I loved you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos, to recall great times, because it is why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I will think of laying on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the sight of a meteor shower, at the Crystal Geyser. I will always love you. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at the photos from our life together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know adored by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd consider her younger siblings my best friends. I am sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well as a terrible grief. They loved as much, I guess he's saying they loved Gabby as much, if not more than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my nieces and nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. This is where things get weird, folks. Go ahead and brace yourselves. Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams of Spread Creek before it got too dark to see, too cold, I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. I shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping my name. She was freezing cold. We had just came from the blazing hot national parks in Utah. The temperature had dropped to a freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could down the stream towards the car, stumbling, exhausted, in shock, when my knees buckled and knew I couldn't safely carry her. I started a fire and I spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin, had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the time realize that I should have started a fire first. But I wanted her out of the car, out of the cold, back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be. Only knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet hurt. Her wrist hurt. But she was freezing, shaking violently. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Laying next to her, she said little lapsing between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep and I would shake her awake, fearing she shouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start the whole painful cycle again, while furious that I was the one waking her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek. Though like me that this fire would go out in her sleep and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful. That it is what she wanted. But I see now all the mistakes I made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her. I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I am ending my life not because of a fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I've lost our whole future together. Every moment we could have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter. The most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I am sorry. I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter. And, oh man. Whew. Forgive me, folks. This is my whole time reading this in its entirety. I skimmed through and I automatically sat down to make this video. So I haven't had a chance to process this yet. But right off the bat, can I say that this sounds batshit crazy? And I don't believe a single word in this? And the fact that someone had the audacity to write this bullshit on paper kind of pisses me off. I'm sorry, I try not to cuss a lot in my videos, but sometimes I just have to get it out. This is the most the biggest crock of shit I think I've ever read in my entire life. But let me just dial it back. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. What the hell did we just read? Forgive me, I don't know much about this creek where they were at, but for the most part, it's pretty shallow water. So I'm not saying all parts of this part. I don't want you all to come in my comment section with the factoids. Well, technically, this creek gets to be 8 feet on this time of the year. Listen, for the most part, this area doesn't have really deep waters. It's usually shallow waters. So Gabby falling beneath the water and half near freezing to death in a moment of seconds, and it's just all totally like this. Who wrote this? You had to be on a whole lot of drugs to believe that this even sounds remotely believable. Dude, Brian, I know you're supposedly dead. Some people still think Brian's alive, and that's okay if they think that. Brian, down there in hell, I hope you're listening to me. Why did you think that anyone in their right mind would believe this? Honestly. If you're gonna do what Brian did and you're gonna end your own life, at least just be honest about what happened here. Brian's last act, if Brian actually wrote this, I'm not convinced that Brian wrote this. Brian's last act was to sit here and try to take blame off of himself and to make himself look like he did the world a favor by ending Gabby's life because she was suffering because she tripped while on a hike. What? But you know what? The craziest part of this is, at least for me, in my personal situation, is someone wrote me this. Someone DM'd me basically all of this on Twitter at one point. And I need to go back through my messages and try to find them. I have tons of messages in there. It wasn't word for word. They didn't tell me word for word what was written in this notebook. But they basically said that in the notebook, Brian doesn't take accountability for what he did, that he blames it on an accident that Gabby had, and that he killed Gabby afterwards to take her out of her misery. And I'll be honest, I'm sorry. I looked at that and I was like, well, I don't know. This sounds kind of crazy. And, I didn't take it as something that was really credible. And listen, I'm sorry if you're watching this video right now and you're the one that sent me that message. I'm sorry for not taking what you sent me as, something that I should take into consideration. I kind of dismissed it. I'll be honest. I kind of dismissed it. But someone basically told me this. Now, did they have inside information? I don't know. But now it damn sure looks like it. Maybe this is something they just created and decided to send to me. I get crazy off the wall messages every single day of my life. However, this is like almost spot on to what someone was trying to tell me months ago. So I don't know if they are who they work for or what. I need to go back and look. But yeah, I don't believe this for one bit. Why in the hell, because your girlfriend trips while you're hiking, you decide to kill her, to take her out of her misery? I would assume that her injuries weren't that severe. It's not like she stepped on a mine and half of her body is blown off and she's bleeding out and she's just like, please end it. Sorry to get too graphic there, but I'm just saying, like, what? You want us to believe that you're walking with your girlfriend, she trips and falls, maybe gets a little bump on her head, and gets a little bit of water on her, and you want us to believe that she's freezing to death out here? No, that's definitely not the case. And we know from her injuries that there was blunt trauma, like blunt force trauma to the head, and strangulation. So basically, you tried to cover up the fact that you hit her over the head with the fact that she hit her head on a rock, and then you choked her to death? Oh my God. There's so many things that I want to say that I have to try to contain myself. And like I said, I'm going to have to make a lot of videos on this. I'm going to let you all know right now, I'm going to be talking about this for a little while because there's so many things to break down. For one, we have to look at the actual notes, the actual notebook here. Let's look at this handwriting. We don't really have anything to compare it to much, but I believe that we could dig up some things that we can maybe compare it to. I don't put it past the parents to have written this because all of it sounds a little too convenient. Like it's all like, hey, please don't bother my parents, they have nothing to do with this. And the timing that this comes out, it comes out as the Petitos are pursuing this lawsuit with the Laundries. And from my understanding, the Petitos were actually trying to get access to this notebook. And that's what part of this lawsuit was, or part of this trial was going to be about. That not only were they trying to get money, they were trying to get access to certain parts of information. It's unclear to me who released this and why now. Did Brian Laundrie's parents decide to release this now? Fox News is who originally reported on this story. Did Fox News decide to release this? Did Gabby's parents release this? I need answers, and like I said, I just read this and I sat down immediately to make this video. So I'm going to have to look over things and I need to get down to the bottom of who actually decided to release this and why now, because that will tell us a lot. But like I said, we all know that it seemed extremely convenient that after weeks and weeks of the FBI, local law enforcement, and all types of people searching for Brian Laundrie, no one could find him. And then the parents went out there and found him within just like that. And they're the ones that supposedly found the dry bag with this notebook and all of this other stuff. So I'm just wondering, could the parents have written this? Roberta, did you write this? It just comes across as weird. But at the same time, I would hope that someone wouldn't sit down and just come up with this nonsense. But someone had to. So it's either Brian Laundrie's family or it's Brian Laundrie. Now, I don't think Brian Laundrie was the sharpest tool in the shed. But damn, I just find it hard to believe that anyone would believe this. And I know that's kind of a tongue twister there. But just initially going over it, it's just off the wall. And there is no accountability here. I was hoping that this notebook would provide some closure for her family, for Gabby's family. Yet this just leaves us kind of I don't know. I can't sit here and put myself in someone else's shoes. I could say it leaves me in a state of kind of shock. I'm halfway shocked because we got this news out of nowhere. And I'm also shocked because what in the hell is even this? What even is this? It's so bizarre and off the wall. And even there's certain portions when he's like, I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart. That sounds weird in itself. This whole note just comes across as weird. And he writes, I don't know. Man. I'm looking over it at while I'm recording this video. And there's a few things that stick out to me for sure. But the writing is kind of all over the place. But when he says, I have killed myself by this creek, it's weird because it's written like it's something that already happened. You know what I mean? It's kind of like something that's written in retrospect. I have killed myself here. Not like I'm going to. So that I found kind of weird. And when he talks about being torn apart by animals, I guess he could have known, hey, I'm in a nature reserve or whatever. This is likely to happen. But yeah, he did get torn apart by animals. So that's weird there as well. But definitely, I have to sit down with this. I need to do some research. I want to see if I could find any possible examples of writing from any of his family members, because I'm not 100% convinced that he wrote this himself. But I would find it hard to believe that his parents would write something like this, maybe they would have it sound a little neater and better. This sounds like the writings of someone who's kind of all over the place. And this excuse of why he killed Gabby is totally stupid. It's like, it's one of those things where sometimes you could read something or hear something and you're sitting here kind of trying to figure out, is this truthful or is this not? You know what I mean? Whereas when I'm reading this, never in my mind did it cross my mind that this is real or that this is truthful. Like 100% I'm reading this like, I literally wanted to roll my eyes in the back of my head and get them stuck there, but I couldn't because I'm recording a video. So it's like, and I'm sorry to laugh, it's not funny, but it is funny. What happened to Gabby isn't funny, but it's funny to me that Brian Laundrie thought that this was smart. Your last act, supposedly on this world, in this world, was leaving behind this stupid ass letter that makes no sense at all. And you were better off saying nothing. You know what I mean? He was better off saying nothing as opposed to leaving behind this weak excuse as to why he did what he did. No one believes this. I would hope no one in their right mind believes this, right? Do any of you all believe this? Let me know down in the comments below. Please let me know because I want to have a discussion. One more thing I want to touch on before the end of this video. The tone of this note, and this is just my opinion, the tone of this note is almost written as if the family already knows what he did. And a lot of what we've been trying to figure out is if Brian Laundrie's parents knew that Brian killed Gabby, that Brian left Gabby at this particular place, and all of that other information. We've been trying to figure that out for a fact. In my opinion, it is a fact. You know, in my mind, it's 100% fact that the Laundries knew what happened here. They had a plan to get Brian Laundrie out of the country or to get Brian Laundrie away. And then Brian Laundrie just decided to go ahead and do this. I don't think for 1 second that the Laundries thought that Brian was innocent and that thought that Gabby could still be alive. No. Come on. We all know that's bogus. But this letter, in my opinion, it doesn't confirm it, but there's a few lines in here, like when he says, I am sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well as a terrible grief. And then he talks about don't bother my family and stuff like that. That makes me feel like his family already knew. You know, but I guess you could say that's a reach because it's not like in writing. He doesn't say, hey, I told my family what I did. However, I get the sense that even from this letter that the family knew, which was something that I basically already knew. But hey, you know, further confirmation never hurt anyone. But like I said, I'm just now reading this. I need time to sit down. I need to let this marinate. I need to let the shock of it all kind of go away so I could really dissect this and give you all my honest opinion of everything here. But just right off the bat, I don't believe a single word of it. It's almost laughable how bad of an alibi or an excuse this was. Never for 1 second would anyone who loves someone decide to end their loved one's life to take them out of their misery because they sprained their ankle while hiking. Like, this is just so out of this world insane. But I think it goes to show the type of mind state Brian may have been in. If Brian literally thought this was a good idea to write down as an excuse for why he killed Gabby, then that shows you that he's a complete crazy psychopathic idiot. Let's be honest. Only a complete crazy stupid idiot would write this down and think, hey, you know, this will get me off the hook. Hopefully this will be a good explanation. Instead of taking accountability, he wrote this. He wrote this. This is what we waited for. This? Man. But let me go ahead and step away from this camera for a moment and gather my thoughts. I'll be back soon enough. This will not be the last you hear from me about this letter or about this notebook. But I want to hear what you all think down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I can't even pull my eyes away from the letters to even do the outro to my video. So I'll talk to you all in the next video, okay?